क्या है मेरे 5-6 कमिटमेंट है इसलिए आपका पास बैठना था और को 400 लोग मशवरा होता कोई मसला नहीं फिर यहाँ पे इतवार को होता फिर हफ्ते को करते हैं अल्लाह आपको जज़ाओ खैर दे भाई जो आप वक्त लगा रहे हैं अल्लाह के दिन के लिए अपने लिए करते हैं जो करते हैं ओके बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन वस्सलातु वस्सलामु अला रसूलिल्लाहि व अला आलिहि व सहबिहि अजमईन रब्बि इश्रह ली सदरी व यस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुल उक़दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली. Inshallah, we'll continue our talk regarding the life of Umar bin Khattab radiyallahu anhu. In last few weeks, we were talking about his life in reference to the financial institutions that he established during his time of ruling, during his Khilafah, that included the economic system. And today we will talk about or shed some light on the subject of judicial system in the life of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. And it's a very important subject actually, and I don't think we will be able to cover in one day. We may need another 1 or 2 sessions. But the judicial system is something that we all actually come across somehow, that and we see that what is the impact of these kind of things in our lives. Before I go into directly of Umar bin Khattab's era, just to mention that there are 3 different kinds of judges in Islam, or qadi. So one is called qadi muhtasib. Muhtasib is who is in charge of setting any kind of breaches in the market area, for example. So if people go to the market and they're cheating and buying and selling, things like that. So for that, qadi, he or she walks into the markets and see if there is any kind of discrepancy or there is any kind of illegal work is going on, and he can issue the tickets or issue the fines or whatever kind of punishment Islam permits that can be given by this qadi. Second kind of a qadi is called the qadi al-khusumat or qadi al-am. Khusumat in Arabic means when people have arguments with each other, or we call disputes among the people. That could be just for example, some fight happened between the people, or there's a dispute regarding buying. Somebody bought a house. Now he's complaining whether the house belonged to him or somebody else, or things like that. So this is khusumat, between disputes between the people. And the third one is qadi al-madalim, and that's the one who settles the disputes between the state and the people. So for example, the Khalifa has issues with the people have issues with the Khalifa, or the rulings or wala or whosoever are ruling, them and the regular people, if they have disputes among each other, then this is a category of the qadi that takes it. But at the end of the day, we understand that, for example, in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, all these things are first of all extracted from his life, and ijma Sahaba, meaning the lives of the Khulafai Rashidin, and when ijma was done. Now, when we talk about all these quda, they can be, for example, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself was among the Sahaba, he used to make the judgments himself. So Sahaba would come to him and he would pass the judgments. And there are cases you find that as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent, for example, Mu'az bin Jabal radiyallahu anhu, and he asked him, how are you going to make the judgments? He said, by the Kitab Allah, by the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Rasulullah said, what if you don't find in the book of Allah? Then he said, in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he said, what if you don't find in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well? So he said that then I will make my judgment from my understanding what is the ruling about it, meaning going back to if there is no direct hukam in Quran and Sunnah, then he would make his own ijtihad regarding the issue in hand. So that's what Mu'az bin Jabal said, and this is how and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have a messenger of the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, messenger of the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning because Mu'az bin Jabal was a messenger of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was sent to Yemen at that time. So this is just a basic thing that we should know, that these are the kind of qadis are there. And when we talk about this qadi, a qadi is a word that means the judge. Yeah, the one who makes the judgments is a qadi. the thing that a qadi must have, he must be a Muslim, he has to be free, mature, sane, just, and faqih. Faqih means he has to have the understanding of the deen. He knows the sharia, that he is applying the ruling of the sharia on the people, or the fiqh. So as you can see, I did not say male here. Muslim, free, mature, sane, just, and a faqih. Now, why not male? Because we can see there are evidences that female can be a judge in Islam, but there is some restrictions on the qadi of the qadi al-quda, for example, or in cases of Ramadan, where the qadi has to meet, for example, khalifa in privacy. So in Islam, it is not allowed for a male to meet a female in privacy unless it's a mahram. So hence, that cannot be a female. But the others, which is in a public place, it is allowed, and we'll take it from there, inshallah. And if there are many evidences about the subject, this session is not about going through the evidences about the fiqh issues, rather about Umar al-Khattab's life we're discussing here. But there's some outline, it should be there. Now, when we talk about judicial system that happened in the time of Umar al-Khattab, as we talked about financial system, the state in the time of Umar al-Khattab spread very fast. As one of the brothers here, he will tell you about Egypt, how Amr bin As, Masjid is there, and Amr bin As is the one who opened Egypt. But Egypt is not the only place. The Persian Empire or the Roman Empire or Byzantines, they were also, those empires were also conquered by the Muslims in the time of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. And Islam expanded very fast. And same thing happened in the time of Uthman also. Sometimes people don't realize that because of the fitna that happened in the time of Uthman, it kind of overshadows that spread of Islam that happened in his time as well. So Islam continued to spread in the time of Khulafai Rashidin. Now, because it spread so much, now institutionalization of even judiciary was important. See, when we talk about making institutions, it's not that we are going away from the Quran and Sunnah, because making institutions is more of an administrative way of administering the things. You are still applying the rule of Allah Azza wa Jal, but how you administer, this thing come under the way of means that you are applying. This is not a method of what you are, meaning you're not changing halal and haram here in any way. You're not making it up from your own mind. It's still coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like, for example, when you talk about when you're driving, there's a traffic lights. These are called administrative rules that can be made by the human beings. And when it comes to the ruler, actually, he's the one who decides these kind of rules can be made. But these are called the means of administering the things. This is already halal to drive, for example. It's already halal. We know that somebody can drive on the street. But now, to make sure that people don't step over each other or do not hurt each other, then you make some rules, and that's allowed in Islam as well. So that's means. Means are allowed. Similarly, when you talk about institutions, were made in his time because there was a need for making institutions. So making sure the rule of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is implemented in a proper way. So in the time of Umar al-Khattab, as the state continued to increase, and we know that the major provinces were added during the time of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. So Umar, he used to make the walis for those provinces, and many a times those same wali, they used to be judges themselves as well, meaning they were making the judgments between the disputes of the people. And some cases we find that the wali was not the judge, because at the end of the day, the whole responsibility goes back to the Khalifa in Islam, because it is on his neck that he is making sure that people are ruled by Islam, right? So so he can delegate his job to others. And wali is one of the things that you make. You send the wali there. He's a representative of the Khalifa, and he is acting on his behalf over there. Now, so he can be a judge as well, and he may not be a judge. Similarly, you can find there are judges who were not the wali in the time of Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. For example, Mu'la ibn Umayyah was the governor of Sana'a, and Sufyan ibn Abdullah al-Thaqafi was the governor of At-Ta'if. Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah was the governor of Kufa. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan was the governor of Syria, and Uthman bin Abi al-As al-Thaqafi was the governor of Bahrain and Oman. And Abu Musa al-Ash'ari was the governor of Basra, and Umar ibn Sa'ad was the governor of Homs. Now, among these, the governors that I mentioned, Umar kept them as judges as well, appointing them as the wali, but he did with what he did with Muawiyah. But in other cases, for example, Al-Mughira and Abu Musa al-Ashari, they were governors, but they were not judges. Okay. Now, on the other hand, Ali bin Abi Talib and Zayd bin Thabit, for example, they were judges, but they were not governors. Just want to distinguish so we know that they can be both, meaning governor and judges. At the same time, they can be just wali and they can be just judges as well. Okay, so these are some of the examples in the life of Umar al-Khattab. Now, when it comes to the qualities of the judges, this is very important to know, and what kind of a judgment they should be passing, and what are the things they should keep in consideration. So when you look at the life of Umar al-Khattab, we see great examples, even for today, which are as applicable as they were applicable in the past as well. I will just read out a couple of letters that Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, he wrote to his governors, his wali, or the ones who were judges as well. So one of the letters that he sent was, it says like this letter was sent to Abu Musa al-Ashari, about the governor, because governor, a Khalifa can appoint the judges, and so can the wali. Okay, they can also, because he is acting on the Khalifa's behalf. So it says that from the slave of Allah, the son of Al-Khattab, referring to Umar al-Khattab, Amir al-Mu'mineen, to Abdullah ibn Qais, radiallahu anh, he says, judging the judicial system is a confirmed obligation and a way to be followed. Try to understand when cases are presented to you, for there is no use in person presenting his case if it is not understood. So this part is very important if you pay attention to it. And I'll go on, read the lesson later also, but I'll break it down so we understand what's said here. So it's a very important thing to understand the matter before you making a judgment. If you don't understand the matter, then the judgment is invalid. It has no value, because, like for example, if somebody comes and he has a case that is related to some medical issues. Now, if a judge does not even understand what the medical issue is, then he will not be able to pass a judgment. It's as simple as that. And in Islam, in every case, when we talk about even fiqh opinions, when we talk about, because judgment is also a fiqh opinion at the end of the day. So when we are talking about any kind of fiqh opinion, any reality is presented to a faqih, he has to know what the reality is. If he is not capable of understanding, then he should reach out to the people who can explain the reality to him, explain what the case is about, so he can pass the judgment about the issue in hand. Okay, and then he says, the letter continues on, treat people equally when you address them, so that no nobleman will hope that you will side with him unfairly, and no weak man will despair of your justice. Okay, now this is the second part of it, which is important again, because a lot of time we see that a weak person is always, actually he goes to the court even today's time also, that he has no hope that this case he can even win. And he's not hoping that he's going to get anything. And many times strong people actually go towards the judges with this arrogance that nobody can harm them. They know the judgment will be on their side. So Umar made sure that judges understand, that the weak understands when he's coming to the judge, he will get justice, doesn't matter, he's weak or strong. So he reminded the judges, make sure that your judges are working like that. Then he says, the burden of proof rests with the plaintiff, and the oath is required of one who denies it. What does it mean here? Plaintiff is the one mudda'i, yeah, the one who is bringing the case against somebody. So for example, person A brings a case and he says person B has done some harm to him. So now the one who says that he has been harmed, he has to bring the proof. It's not like that. Somebody says that somebody harmed him, now because the one who opened the mouth first, he's right. It doesn't work that way. The one who has been harmed, the one who's saying somebody has harmed him, he has to prove him. You cannot just walk around. Yes, that's true, that then you can do the investigations and all those things. But a person is considered innocent if there is no, the person is innocent to begin with, unless you bring a proof. Okay, you have to prove it. So you are innocent. What's the expression they use? You're
Proven guilty.
innocent until proven guilty. Yes. Okay. So now it says, then the letter continues on that it is permissible to make a deal between Muslims, except a deal that permits something that is forbidden or forbids something that is permitted. Meaning, two people come in fighting with each other. But if they are willing to take the case outside the court, instead of going through the court system or something, because one of the things is reconciliation is better. Reconciliation is better, but reconciliation cannot be about the issue that is breaking the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, this is a key thing in there. You cannot just justify any haram that because both agree, so it's okay now. Like in the society here, we have two people are consenting, they could commit adultery, that's okay because they're consenting adults. No, it doesn't work that way. What it means by that is there are different kinds of issues people having, which if there is no haram is done, then they can do the reconciliation. That's okay. That's what Umar is saying here. Okay. Then it goes on. If you passed a judgment yesterday, then examine it further in your mind and are guided to a different conclusion, then that should not prevent you from returning to the truth. For truth is eternal, and returning to truth is better than persisting in falsehood. Yeah. No. So here, this is a very important principle, not for the judges, for even individuals, all of us as well, or for even the one who have the capability of coming up with the ijtihad to understand the deen, because we can make mistakes. We are human beings. We are not like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was ma'soom, who was infallible. Human beings, us, because he was directed by the wahy, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We as human can make mistakes. So if we find out where we have made a mistake, we should return back. So that's what he said to judges. You are judges, that's fine. But if the judge makes a mistake, and then he realized later on that the judgment he passed was wrong. So it should not be because of his ego. Oh man, if I tell the people I was wrong, then my credibility will be at stake. No, that does not put the credibility, because we are answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end of the day. That's a key thing to remember. So this is why he's saying it's better for you to go back rather than being persistent on the falsehood, because truth is eternal. Let's go. Examine carefully each issue which you are unsure about, where there is no text in the Quran and Sunnah, and try to find a similar case. Draw analogies and see which is more likely to be pleasing to Allah and closest to truth. Now here, because not everything you will find in the Quran and Sunnah that exactly like this. So for example, thou shalt not do weeds. You will not find that the ayah or hadith that's saying don't do the weeds, don't do the cannabis. You will not find these wordings. So you find the principles sometime, and you apply those principles and come up with the rulings. So you're saying that Umar said to them, if you don't find exactly what the Quran and Sunnah says, then you make your judgment that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Go with that idea, and do not make the judgments in without understanding the issue and without getting the judgment from the Quran and the Sunnah. Okay, and then he says, whoever claims that someone owes him some dues, set a time limit for him to produce his evidence. Again, goes back to the evidence has to be produced. If he produces evidence, then restore his rights to him. Otherwise, ask him to drop his claim. That is better, so as to eliminate any doubt. The Muslims are basically good character, except one who has been lashed as a had punishment or who is known for bearing false witness. So when you are making the judgment, you will look at any Muslim who comes, you go by Muslim is good, meaning he's adl. You go by he's a good person because he's a Muslim. But if it's known that he's a liar, he has given the false witness, or he was punished because of being a false witness, then in that case, his judgment should be questioned. Then I say Allah is in charge of what is hidden in people's heart. Judgment must be based on evidence and oaths. Beware of becoming impatient, because judging in accordance with the truth brings a great reward from Allah and stores up a great deal of reward in the hereafter. Whoever has a good intention and checks himself, Allah will be sufficient for him, and he need not worry about people. But whoever shows the attitude to people which Allah knows is not his true attitude, Allah will expose him. Think of the reward of Allah in this world and in the hereafter. Allah be with you. He says, "Salaam alaikum" at the end. So this is one of the letters, and this letter plays a cornerstone in many, many places when we talk about the judicial system in Islam. Of course, this letter has connection to the Quran and Sunnah. All these things which I mentioned here, they have evidences go back to the Quran and Sunnah as well. Umar is not just fabricating something from his mind and telling the people to come do the things that way. Okay. Similar kind of letters he sent to others as well. That included, he sent to Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, he sent to Muawiyah, and he sent to Qadi Shuraih. Qadi Shuraih is an interesting personality. He became Muslim in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he never met Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he was in Yemen and he did not meet. But this is why he's considered as a tabi'i. And there's other term used for that, but let's stick with that. He was a tabi'i, and he used to, so when in the time of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he was appointed as a qadi. And he's one of those qadis, a very famous qadi in the history of Islam. And he was a qadi throughout the Khulafai Rashidin time period, and even in the time of Muawiyah, and he passed away in the time of Muawiyah. So he was one of those famous judges of Islam. Whenever we see any kind of old judgments from the time of Sahaba, you will see this name a lot, Qadi Shuraih. Okay, one letter which is very small because it has like 5 points he mentioned. Unlike that, I'll quickly go over so we get an idea of. He says those 5 points he mentioned Abu Ubaidah. He says, I have written to you a letter in which I have not spared myself or you any goodness. Adhere to these 5 characteristics, and those characteristics are: stick with the deen. See, he always remind all his governors, judges, the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that you have to return to Allah and you are accountable in front of Allah. When you are making judgments, remember that. So stick to your deen when you are making it. And he said, when 2 disputes comes to you, you must look for clear proof and definitive oath. 2. Number 3, be gentle with the weak one so that he will have the courage to speak. Then he said, number 4, take care of the stranger. For if the investigation into his case takes too long, he may give up and go back to his family. Strive to bring about reconciliation unless it becomes clear to you who is in the right and who is in the wrong. So reconciliation is good, but if there's a definite wrong has been done, then don't let it go. That's what he's saying. And there's one other interesting thing besides the other letter I mentioned was, he said, when you're dealing with the stranger, the justice should be provided swiftly. Because what happens when you don't do that? He's a stranger in an area. He wants to go back to his family. He will not be able to last long in this judicial system, which are long. And today's time, many of us here also would know of ourselves, could be ourselves, could be others. We would know that harm has been done to us. But the one who has done the harm could be such a big person or a company, could be a corporation, who have lines of lawyers, team of lawyers would be there for them, that you will feel like, even if I take my case to the judicial system, I cannot take care of it. I will be financially bankrupt if I go through the judicial system, because they have enough lawyers who can continue to pay to the lawyers and go against you, while you will run out of money in a month, 2 months, a year, 2 years, 10 years. They have no problem. They have the lawyers which are on salaries. They have nothing better to do but to go against the people and file lawsuits. So look what Umar al-Khattab is establishing a principle here. He said, should be swift to make sure that people will not run away, that they think of, I'll give up, I cannot do anything, I don't want it. So, because this is the kind of a things that really brings justice between the mankind. So weak is given an advantage of go speak. Okay, so same thing about it's not that when you're helping the weak, so you're suppressing the strong, or the one who because you can have a stronger person is on the right side. And hence we should be careful. Like, for example, if you remember the example Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about Dawood alayhi salam in the Quran. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Dawood alayhi salam. And he sent 2 angels came in the shape of a human beings in front of Dawood alayhi salam. And one of them said, they said they're brothers. And one said one had 99 sheep and one has 1 sheep. Okay. So the one who had 1 sheep, he said, my brother has 99 sheep and I have 1 sheep and he wants to take that one away from me. Now, Dawood right away, he did not even listen to the other brother. And he passed the judgment in the favor of this one. And those both of angels, they disappeared. Dawood right away realized that he made what mistake he made. And of course, as a prophet, he returned back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala here. Okay, so we should be listening to both sides of the stories whenever we are making the judgment. That's what Umar al-Khattab was saying. And later on, we will talk about a little bit more again, those qualities that Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh was asking for. Okay, when it comes to the judges, Umar al-Khattab radiallahu anh, he gave all the judges salaries. And salaries were sufficient enough for them, number one thing. And there are salaries which are mentioned. I'm not going to the numbers of those salaries, but he gave them enough salaries. So one of the key things that Umar wanted was, one is the judges are getting salaries and they are well off in the society. Why? Because when you are well off, you cannot be lured into doing the wrong things. Otherwise, there's a chance that you will lean towards in a manner that your judgment will be actually corrupted because you want to favor somebody because he can probably help you out, bribe you. Even Umar al-Khattab, he mentioned, you do not do any buying and selling with the people who are in front of you, you're making a judgment between. Because when you are doing buying and selling, you may be doing a fair buying and selling, but he may give you a discount, for example, and your judgment may go in his direction. Okay, so that's why he made sure this. There are special qualities that he looked into. For example, the knowledge about the ruling of the Sharia. Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh made sure that people who are there, they have taqwa. And he says, look for someone righteous men among you and appoint them as judges. He said to Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah. So righteousness was important. Lack of interest in what people possess. Umar said, no one can establish the command of Allah except one who is not trying to appease people. There are many people who sometimes when you ask them questions, they will give you the answer because they want to appease you. The idea should not be that. The idea should be what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Maybe the person you're telling him what the right thing is, he may be unhappy from you, but he will become happy inshallah because he's following the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Another thing he's saying about was intelligence is important. And there's an incident mentioned about intelligence that Ash-Sha'bi mentioned that Ka'ab ibn Siwar was sitting with Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh. One woman came to Umar ibn Khattab and she started saying that she's talking about, she said, O Amir al-Mu'mineen, I have never seen a man who is better than my husband. Okay, by Allah, he spends the night in prayer and he spends his days fasting and does not break his fast on a hot day. So Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, he prayed for forgiveness for her and praised her and said, you are saying something good about your husband. Now, woman felt shy and she left. Now here, Ka'ab ibn Siwar, he said, oh Amir al-Mu'mineen, why didn't you help her? Help her to solve her problem with her husband. Umar said, basically, what was she complaining about? Because he could not sense what was the problem here. So Ka'ab ibn Siwar, he said, why didn't you solve the problem? Then he said, yes, is that so? She has a problem. He said, she was complaining about a serious problem with her husband. See, the way that the language used is, subhanAllah, they're not talking about directly what the issue is, but the issue has been mentioned here. And then he said, okay, is that so? So he said, okay, yes, bring the woman back. So they brought the woman back. So he said, there is nothing wrong with speaking the truth. This man claims that you were complaining about your husband and that he avoids your bed. Because he's not sleeping during nighttime, he's just worshiping. He's fasting during the daytime. That's all he's been doing. So he's not spending time with his wife. So that's what she was complaining about. Umar missed it. Ka'ab bin Siwar, he sensed it right away, that there is a problem here. So hence, he said, he reminded. So now when they're talking, so she said yes. And she said, I am a young woman. Because Umar now, see, remember what he was telling the others to do, he's doing the very same thing. He's empowering the woman to speak the truth now. So that he told her, there is nothing wrong with saying the truth, whatever you have. So now she said, I am a young woman. I want what any woman wants. So he sent for her husband who came to him. Then Umar said, Ka'ab, pass the judgment. Now Ka'ab said, you are the Khalifa. You are more entitled to pass the judgment Why don't you pass the judgment? He said, I insist that you pass judgment between them, for you understood something about their situation that I did not understand. And now so look at his judgment. It's a very interesting judgment. The Umar started praising the judgment as well. He said, I think if there were 3 wives and she was the 4th, she would have had 1 night in every 4 nights, right? So he said, so I rule that he should keep 3 days and nights for himself, during which he may pray, and she should have 1 day and night. Umar said, by Allah, your suggestion is more amazing than your understanding her hint. Go, for you are the judge of the Basra. So intelligence is very important. Otherwise, people would not, the judge know what's going on. And we know how the things go. Even just a simple traffic ticket you go for, how the things happen over there. Unfortunately, there are places you go and there will be lawyers walking around in the court. And they will be asking you, give that much money, the ticket will not come on your record. And then the lawyer will go in the chamber with the judge, come out, and you suddenly find out the case is gone. So, see, this is the problem that happens when the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not, piety is not there, taqwa is not there, and people are just after the wealth. See, Umar solved the problem. Make sure the people who are judging, they are well off financially. Not only that, he also tried to get the people who are listened to in the public. Meaning, when people talk, they talk, people listen. So they do not have any desire to appease the people because they are already well off in all senses, publicly, wealth-wise, and everything. So he made sure that the people have the quality of intelligence. Strictness without harshness. Umar said, no one should be appointed to this role but a man who has 4 qualities: kindness without weakness, strictness without harshness. See, there's a difference between being harsh and being firm. What you're trying to say, you stick with what the right thing is without being harsh. And also, there's a difference between kindness without weakness. See, weakness is not necessarily kindness. Sometimes you can be, you actually see a weakness that you're trying to act as if you're a very kind person. And same way, you're trying to show you're firm, but you're harsh actually. So you have to be kind as well as you have to be firm, what you are saying. So these are 4 things that you should have. Moderation without stinginess and easiness without extravagance. And then he also said, strength of character should be there. I am going to dismiss Abu Maryam. He dismissed Abu Maryam and appoint a man when the evildoer sees him, he will be scared. So there was a weakness, he removed that person from the job. Last one for today, inshallah, I'll talk about was the quality he talked about was he should be wealthy and a good lineage. That's the one I already talked about. But this is Umar said. Umar wrote to some of his governors, no one should be appointed as a judge except one who is well off and a good lineage. The one who is well off will have no desire of people's wealth, and the one who is good lineage will not be scared of the people. So these characteristics are important besides the one the Sharia has already placed. This is on top of the one that Umar bin Khattab recommended. Inshallah, we'll talk about other things next week, some of the very nice incidents actually I've mentioned of the life of Umar bin Khattab regarding the judicial system that includes that what are the things that should be required in the judge, meaning when he's making the judgment, what are the things he should be careful about. We'll stop here today's talk, inshallah. If there's any questions,